Tonight on Alaska's News Source, as we watch for Spur's likely eruption, we learn the story behind this 1992 video taken more than 30 years ago. Plus,
scientists at the Alaska Volcano Observatory are keeping a close eye on Mount Spur. We'll bring you the latest on a possible eruption.
And temperatures are warming statewide. I'll have the forecast as we transition now from snow to rain.
we remembered the 10 Alaskans lost last month when Bering Air Flight 445 crashed. What the NTSB's Alaska chief says the biggest takeaway from their preliminary report is.
You're watching Alaska's News Source.
When we were over there, I can remember thinking that, my gosh, we're very close to this eruption column.
Now, this video is from just outside Anchorage about 32 years ago, and there's a story that comes with it. Good evening. As Alaskans continue watching a likely spur eruption in weeks or months, a now retired volcanologist was the one behind the lens when spur erupted on August 18, 1992. As he worked at the Alaska Volcano Observatory, he was able to get in a plane and check out a rumor of a possible eruption.
It was a cloudy day in Anchorage, and so we couldn't see the volcano, couldn't see across Cook Inlet. So we popped up above the regional cloud layer, and that's where my video of that day begins, with us seeing this enormous eruption cloud. And then as we traverse more to the north, we begin to see the eruption column coming out of Crater Peak. And it was just, it's hard to explain how spectacular that was to be in that plane.
And he says being in that profession, volcanic eruptions are where he would get his energy. He spent as much time in the air as he could to witness and capture Spur's power.
Do you feel like it was like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity?
Absolutely. I had a 39-plus year career with the USGS, 29 of that with the Alaska Volcano Observatory, and that was got to be the highlight day of my whole career.
Now, out of the several possible future outcomes from Mount Spur's current increased activity, the Alaska Volcano Observatory says the most likely scenario would be something similar to the 1992 eruption. And if you'd like to hear more about McGimsey's story, you could head to our website where we have an extended article. All right, let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry to the conversation as we remain on Volcano Watch. Melissa, we know it's looking more likely that an eruption similar to 1992 is expected, but still a lot of unknowns, right? Like the weather.
Yeah, if there's an ash cloud that's pushed up into the atmosphere, we're going to be watching those weather conditions very closely that day, the hours to follow. One of the most important factors of where that ash is going to travel are the wind speeds and the wind direction. Now, it's not the wind at the surface that we're concerned about. It's the wind wherever that ash cloud is pushed to in the atmosphere. So this is a look at the current wind speeds at about 850 millibars. That's about 5,000 feet up into the atmosphere. At this point, you can see those winds are pushing away from Anchorage, away from Kenai, away from the Matsu. Should there be an ash cloud, again, that would all be pushed to the north and to the west in today's scenario. Obviously, we know there is no ash cloud there presently. The other thing they're watching closely are earthquakes, and we have seen several earthquakes of magnitude 2.0 or larger even this week at Mount Spur, but not recording any of those today. Now, again, Mount Spur sits just about 78 miles to the west of Anchorage, and we'll continue to watch those conditions very closely. Again, an advisory was issued by the Alaska Volcano Observatory, and they are expecting that eruption. But again, there is still no timeline for when that would happen. But again, scientists with the Alaska Volcano Observatory do expect that we'll see additional activity before an eruption. Lauren Maxwell went to the observatory today to see how scientists are keeping track of that activity day and night.
But we can track the surface through time.
Scientists are using sophisticated software
So this is now a 3D model derived from those photographs.
that's advanced considerably since Spur last erupted in 1992. One thing they do know,
Starting to melt things, producing a little bit more steam.
things inside the volcano are slowly heating up. In 1992, the volcano blew after an extended period of unrest that ramped up prior to the eruption. Today, seismic activity on Spur is considered elevated at code yellow.
And you can see, depending on which way the wind blows, it can impact a lot of different areas.
But scientists say so far, It's not increased enough to raise it to the next alert level, orange.
The earthquake activity, it waxes and wanes on any particular day, but overall it's in a general sort of stable pattern.
Scientists are confident their equipment will give the public fair warning days or weeks before an event.
Even at that point, it's not certain that an eruption will occur. I mean, there are lots of volcanoes that get almost all the way to an eruption and it doesn't actually happen. So it is important for people to be aware that this is not a certainty, but it's, more likely than not.
They say the best course is to be prepared and stay tuned for information in the days ahead about the volcano's continuing unrest. Lauren Maxwell, Alaska's news source.
Now, if Mount Spur erupts, the Matanuska-Susitna Borough School District is out with their plan. A district message to families and staff says that they're taking necessary steps to prepare. And if Spur erupts, they say they'll work quickly with the borough and state officials. The eruption size, time of day, and weather patterns will also determine how the district responds and if students will be sent home, shelter in place, or cancel school. There's also a plan if students and staff need to shelter at the school.
Everything's got filtration, all your air intakes, everything, all the air handling systems into the school, all your generation systems. We're going to ensure at the point in time that kids are in the schools that those systems are shut down, just so it'll filter it, but we don't want to take the chance of bringing it into the school anyway.
Now, district leaders say that they'll use their mass communication system to text, call, and email families. The Kenai Peninsula Borough School District says administrators will meet next week to make sure everyone is on the same page. The Anchorage School District expects to release their plan on Friday. Now, the quickest way to get real-time information is by signing up for our push alerts on the free Alaska's Weather Source app. You can get that, check it out, the latest in our continuing Volcano Watch coverage, wherever you get your applications. A preliminary National Transportation Safety Board report says Bering Air Flight 445 had more than 1,000 pounds overweight for the icy conditions it was flying in when last month's fatal crash happened, killing all 10 on board. Beyond the plane being overweight, the NTSB's 9-page preliminary report says about 1,350 pounds of fuel was recorded as on board from takeoff from Unalakleet. And communication records show that controllers suggested the pilot delay approach to Nome to allow runway de-icing to be completed. The crash was around 3:20 p.m. on February 6th, and between 3 p.m. and 3:45 p.m. that day, Nome weather conditions had changed significantly, including reduced visibility. But the report says there were no major advisories at the time of the crash.
The report that was released today is strictly preliminary reports, who, what, when, where. As far as what the investigators have found, gives a little bit of a timeline as far as how this tragic accident came to be, and gives a little bit of insight as far as where we're going to be looking and some of the important points of the accident investigation.
Now, family members of some of those who died on Flight 445 are reacting to the report's release. Alaska's news source reached out to loved ones of all 10 on board who were impacted by the crash. Several telling us today that they are taking things day by day and are still processing the crash from last month. Now, others said that they had nothing to add. We should note that the husband of Leanne Ryan, who died on Flight 445, said he was not surprised about the findings and says he's not sure if he'll keep reading more of the report.
Kind of what we expected, combination of weather and other factors. That's aviation in Alaska. I mean, it's just one of those things that happens.
Now, Alaska's news source reached out to Bering Air for a response to the preliminary report, but has not yet heard back. Our complete coverage continues on our website and our mobile app, where you can read the report and learn the stories of those who were lost on Flight 445. Well, still ahead, training those who serve our country. We're going inside the gates to show you the perspective from a seat in the Airmen Leadership School.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
Well, leaders on the front lines and beyond. This week, Quinn White takes us inside the gates to Airmen Leadership School, where airmen are preparing to become supervisors on the front lines.
I've learned that being a leader isn't being the best in the room and being the person that has the highest rank. It's being the person who's there for everyone in the room.
Trust, motivation, and emotional intelligence are a few key takeaways from Airman Leadership School. The goal, making sure these airmen are mission ready.
I think it set me up for success, especially being a leader and somebody that loves motivating people. Going into that aspect, it definitely prepared me in a way that sets me apart from my peers before I attended this class.
After completing the program, graduates are able to take on supervisor roles, but the skills learned here go beyond work in the Air Force.
I have never met a student that hasn't walked out of these doors and doesn't say, like, I'm glad I came here. They've all walked out and are so happy to be here, and they have learned whether it's to be a better supervisor or just be a better mom, be a better husband, be a better listener. I'm not here to make you a better supervisor. I'm here to make you a better human.
Leaders in the skies and here at home. Quinn White, Alaska's news source.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.